The film discussed this time, entitled Limitless, was released in 2011. This film tells the story of a man who is lazy, unemployed and has a bleak future, but his life suddenly changes. He suddenly became a genius after taking the mysterious pill. Straight to the storyline. Shows a man who looks sloppy and jobless. He is Eddie Mora. Eddie has a girlfriend named Lindy. Actually Eddie has a job as a writer, but Eddie is classified as a lazy person, so he is not productive. One day Lindy asked Eddie to break up because all of their living expenses were borne by Lindy, and Eddie didn't have an income. Therefore, Lindy decided to part with Eddie so that he was more independent and not lazy. It is also known that Eddie was once married to a woman named Melissa. But his household also foundered. Then when Eddie was walking with a feeling of confusion, he met his former brother-in-law or brother of his ex-wife named Vernon. Once upon a time, Vernon was a drug dealer. But now he has quit and is now working in a pharmaceutical company. The two of them chatted at the cafe. In that chat, Eddie told the experience that had been experienced so far. Vernon tried to give Eddie a solution by giving him a transparent pill. Vernon said that the pill can stimulate the brain so that it can be used more optimally. Usually the brain is only used as much as 20% only. By taking the pill, it can stimulate the brain so that it can be utilized almost 100%. At first Eddie had doubts about the pill, but Eddie's condition was confused and there were many problems in his life. Eddie finally took the pill in hopes of improving his performance. When he arrived at his apartment, he was blocked by the young wife of the apartment owner named Valerie to collect rent. At that moment the reaction of the pill started to work. Unexpectedly, Eddie's views and thoughts immediately changed. Eddie seemed to be a genius. He speaks fluently and orderly, even remembering things he used to learn. Not only that, he can also explain about the book that was brought by Valerie. Even though Eddie had only skimmed the book 12 years ago. Because of that, Eddie suddenly became a cool friend to chat with for Valerie. Eddie also helps Valerie in compiling papers for her college assignments. She can finish her book in just 2 hours. Then Eddie also tidied up his messy place. But in the morning when Eddie woke up, he returned to the old Eddie because the pill's effect was only 8 hours. Eddie, who was curious about the pill, returned to see Vernon. When he arrived at Vernon's place, Eddie was surprised to see Vernon's bruised face. Like after a fight, Vernon, who already knew the purpose of Eddie's arrival, told him that the name of the pill was NZT. Vernon also said that if the price per item reaches $800 and you choose it, it has not passed clinical trials, so its circulation is limited. Vernon then asked Eddie to get his clothes in the laundry and buy him breakfast. Later Vernon will give NZT pills to Eddie for free. After returning from buying breakfast, Eddie is surprised to find Vernon has died and the condition of the house is a mess. Eddie then immediately called the police, while waiting for the police to arrive. Eddie has a guess that the person who killed Vernon was the one who wanted the NZT pills too. Therefore, Eddie took the initiative to look for the NZT film. Who knows, it's still there. After searching everywhere, Eddie finally found NZT pills and some money in the back of the oven. Not long after, the police arrived. Eddie was then taken to the police station as a witness. Of the money and pills he found, makes Eddie turn 180 degrees. He is more presentable with a genius mind. So no wonder, he is now able to speak among executives, until he was financed by his wealthy friends. Furthermore, Eddie, who is basically a smart person, has the intention to move forward. He then studied the business of buying and selling shares from books and the internet, and he started the practice of buying and selling shares. Although as a beginner, Eddie immediately skyrocketed in the stock market. Although he has succeeded, Eddie feels that the capital distributed to the stock market is too small. He then ventured to borrow money from a moneylender named Gennady. After that, Eddie went crazy and broke the line. He made a profit of $2 million within 10 days. Eddie's achievements certainly made the world stock market boom. Eddie was then offered by Kevin to work in his company. His ex-girlfriend named Lindy finally asked to come back again. The next morning when Eddie and Lindy were out for a walk, Eddie felt someone was following them. So Eddie is more alert. Then the president of the company where he worked, curious about Eddie, wanted to meet him. His name is Carl. Diab was amazed to see Eddie's ability to analyze stock movements as well as company profiles. Carl then asks Eddie to come back to see him tomorrow morning. In the afternoon when Eddie came home, he suddenly didn't want to go in the house, so he chose to take a walk that took him to the center of town and continued until he came to a bar. There Eddie drank liquor and it turned out that the pill reacted with alcohol, which caused Eddie to be unable to control himself for 18 hours. After leaving the bar, Eddie then asked a woman for a date at the hotel. And the person who followed him yesterday was following Eddie. Then in the parking lot, Eddie accidentally bumps into someone, so they bicker and end up in a fight. But somehow, even though Eddie wasn't good at fighting, he could beat the guy just by remembering the kung fu moves from the movies he watched. The next day when Eddie is in a meeting with Carl, Eddie is shocked by the news of the murder of a young woman he dated last night. Eddie then walks out of the meeting and is shocked that he doesn't remember what he did the last 18 hours. Eddie decides to return to his apartment. At Eddie's apartment he gets a call from his ex-wife, Melissa, who warns him not to have anything to do with the NZT pills. Out of curiosity, Eddie asked to meet with Melissa. Eddie looked surprised by Melissa's pale condition. Melissa said that several years ago, she had taken NZT pills. But when she stopped, Melissa was sick and had trouble concentrating. Melissa then advised Eddie to stop taking the pill, but don't stop immediately. He had to gradually reduce his dose so he wouldn't be like himself. Then when he came home, Eddie was surprised by the presence of Kennedy, the moneylender who wanted to collect his debt. When Kennedy hit Eddie, he was attracted by the NZT pills that Eddie was holding. Eddie said that it was aspirin. But Kennedy, who was curious, still took the pill. Then Eddie went to the bank to pay off the debt to Kennedy. Then he came home in a hurry, but he couldn't stand it anymore, until he went to Lindy's office to ask for help to get Lenny to get NZTB pills to his apartment. On that occasion Eddie also admitted that his brilliance all this time was thanks to him taking NZT pills. Lindy was angry, but seeing Eddie was in a slump, Lindy finally took the pills to Eddie's apartment. On the way, Lindy was again followed by a mysterious man who had been following Eddie, but not only followed, the man even wanted to attack Lindy. Lindy tried to ask people for help. But unfortunately, the man actually killed 2 people who were helping Lindy. Lindy then went into hiding while calling Eddie to ask for a solution. Eddie suggested that Lindy take NZT pills. With doubts, Lindy finally took the pill and instantly knew how to escape. Lindy ran to the Sky Arena and used the children's Sky shoes to attack the mysterious man so that Lindy managed to escape. After that, Lindy and Eddie stayed together at the hotel. In the morning, Eddie promised Lindy he would never take NZT pills again. Lindy, who was still angry, then left. Since then, Eddie studied the side effects of NZT pills and started to reduce their use of the pills. Furthermore, Eddie also met with Carl to discuss a collaboration. Carl also agreed with Eddie. He also provided luxurious facilities and a house with super maximum security for Eddie. Carl knows, if Eddie leaves his company, then he has the potential to be his biggest opponent. Meanwhile, Kennedy, who is getting addicted to NZT's choices, always terrorizes Eddie. Eddie, starting to feel uncomfortable with Kennedy's behavior, devises a plan so he can escape the loan sharks. Eddie also hires a bodyguard to guard him. Next, Eddie met a pharmacist to do the development of NZT and decrease the side effects caused. Eddie gave time for 6 months with a fee of up to $2 million. But the problem is still not over. Eddie is still faced with the case of Vernon's death and also the woman at the hotel. Eddie also hired the most expensive lawyer in New York, so that he managed to be free from charges. But unfortunately, when he was undergoing examination, the lawyer stole his NZT pills. Next, Carl and Eddie will sign with one of the big investors named Hank Edward. But Hank's wife reported that if her husband was in a coma, the signing had to be postponed. When Eddie escorts Hank's wife out, Eddie is surprised that the aide is the one who is going to attack Lindy Tempo Day. Then when in the toilet, Eddie realized that his Paul NZT had disappeared. Eddie suspects that his lawyer stole the pills. Shortly afterward, Eddie received a package which turned out to be his bodyguard's hand. Then Eddie came home upset because he had lost the NZT pills. Because he was in danger of being knocked out, because there were no pills. Sometime later, Gennady and his men banged on Eddie's house. A panicked Eddie tries to kill himself by jumping off the building, rather than being tortured by Gennady. Suddenly he remembered if there was still one NZT pill left, but when Eddie was about to eat it, the pick fell down, so Gennady and his men were able to enter the house. Gennady then beats Eddie. He also shows a new way of using NZT, namely by diluting it and injecting it in blood, with the aim of having a longer effect. Meanwhile, Gennady's men were busy searching Eddie's house. Eddie took advantage of their carelessness by taking a knife and directly stabbed it at Gennady. Eddie, who is still weak, of course can't fight Gennady's men. Eddie then drinks Gennady's blood, which still contains NZT, so that he has energy again, and finally able to kill Gennady's men. Next, he received news that Hang Edward had died. After that, he met Edward's aide and asked him to help Eddie get the NZT out of his lawyer's hands. By them, the lawyer was beaten unconscious and the NZT pills were back in Eddie's hands. A year later, Eddie's career is going uphill. He is now a politician and a senator. In addition, he has also written a best-selling book. Then Carl wants to invite him back to work together because he wants to run for President of America. But Eddie refuses. Carl threatens to reveal Eddie's secret of taking drugs. Carl also says that he has bought all the laboratories that produce NZT. But Eddie is not worried because he has hired a pharmacist to develop NZT to make it more optimal and safe for consumption, long before Carl bought the lab. In addition, Eddie also said, if he had known all the rottenness of Carl, Eddie also added, if Carl's heart disease was getting chronic, so the possibility, next year he cannot be a presidential candidate. Heard Eddie's words, Carl immediately left and Eddie also went to meet Lindy. Such is the story of a man who is lazy, unemployed, and has a bleak future. But his life suddenly changed. He suddenly became a genius after taking a mysterious pill. Life is not to be lazy, but life must be a struggle for a purpose and fame. Thank you and see you in the next storyline.